Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take source material, break it down, and pull out the real nuggets of knowledge for you. For you, our listener, our mission today is really to give you a shortcut, a way to get up to speed on a major global topic. And we want to equip you with some, well, surprisingly relevant concepts and the right words to understand and discuss it confidently. Today's Deep Dive focus, the effects of global warming. The cascading effects, actually. Okay, so we generally get that global warming means the planet's heating up.
Yeah.
But what's really striking are maybe the less obvious effects, the ones that kind of build on each other and make things worse. Could you maybe shed some light on one of those critical, perhaps less talked about impacts we should be aware of?
Absolutely. Yeah. Beyond the things we hear about often, like sea level rise or, extreme heat waves, what's genuinely concerning is something like the accelerated thawing of permafrost, in the Arctic regions.
Permafrost, right.
And this isn't just, oh, the ground is getting a bit softer. It's really about these vast amounts of trapped methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas, and it's actually much, much more potent than CO2, especially in the shorter term. And releasing it just pumps more into the atmosphere.
Ah, okay, so that creates a kind of feedback loop.
Exactly, a powerful positive feedback loop. So the warming causes more thawing. The thawing releases more methane, and that leads to even more warming. It sort of runs away with itself.
That's a really crucial point because it shows how complex this all is. It's not just a straight line of temperature going up. It's these loops that can, wow, really speed things up. Okay, so if permafrost thaw is one of those significant, maybe under-discussed impacts, what about the basic mechanism? What's driving the warming overall, especially at a scale that triggers these kinds of dramatic effects?
Well, fundamentally, it boils down to the sheer volume of greenhouse gases that, human activities have put into the atmosphere. Our reliance on burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, for pretty much everything. Energy, transport, industry. That releases huge amounts of carbon dioxide and other gases that trap heat. These gases just build up. They make the atmosphere's natural blanket thicker, you could say. And crucially, that changes the Earth's energy balance. We've kind of tipped the scales from the natural greenhouse effect, which, keeps the planet livable.
Right, the one we need.
Exactly. We've enhanced it, pushed it too far, and now that's disrupting ecosystems and, human societies across the globe.
Okay, so if that's the big picture, what's happening and why, let's maybe arm you, our listener, with some key terms, phrases you'll definitely hear when this topic comes up. These aren't just buzzwords. They're really keys to understanding the finer points. Let's start with carbon footprint.
Right, carbon footprint. When we talk about that, we're basically trying to quantify the total amount of greenhouse.
So things like flying a lot, driving your car every day, or even just how much electricity your house uses.
Exactly.
Those all add up to your footprint. It sort of puts a number on our environmental impact individually and, well, collectively, too.
Precisely. And once you understand that, it naturally leads to thinking about, well, how can I reduce my carbon footprint? It means making deliberate choices, doesn't it? Like maybe taking public transport more often, or really getting into recycling, cutting back on consumption, or even changing what you eat, like less meat, because meat production has a pretty significant emissions footprint itself. It's all about trying to lessen our impact.
Yeah, you might hear someone say something like, oh, I started biking to work, specifically trying to lower my carbon footprint. And it makes the action very clear. Okay, now, climate change. We've all heard that term for years. But more recently, you hear climate crisis popping up a lot more. It feels like a very conscious shift in wording. What's the deal with that? What's the significance of using crisis instead?
That's a really interesting point. Climate crisis isn't just a different way to say the same thing. It's a rhetorical choice. It's meant to convey immediate, serious urgency. The gravity of the situation. It suggests we're kind of past the stage of gradual change, and we're now in a situation that needs emergency-level action. You hear it much more now in the news, in scientific communications, in politics. It's become a very powerful, very intentional phrase.
Right, and you see that urgency reflected in, say, global movements. Like you might hear, young people all over the world are demanding immediate action on the climate crisis. The word itself pushes for a response. Okay, let's switch gears slightly to eco-friendly. This term is, well, it's everywhere, isn't it? On packaging, ads for cars, cleaning products. Beyond just meaning good for the environment, how does its widespread use maybe shape how we think about environmental claims? Does it sometimes make us a bit skeptical?
Yeah, eco-friendly basically means good for the environment, or at least better for it. But its ubiquity, like you said, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it makes environmental awareness feel more accessible, right? Puts it on everyday products. But on the other hand, it can be really vague. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's used for greenwashing.
Ah, greenwashing. Right.
Yeah, where companies might make claims about being green that aren't entirely accurate or are maybe misleading. So while it generally points you towards things like reusable shopping bags or bamboo toothbrushes or electric cars, it's probably worth asking what specifically makes this product eco-friendly. Dig a little deeper sometime.
Definitely. It's just a term that's woven into daily life now. You might catch yourself saying, yeah, I try to buy eco-friendly products when I can, and maybe that prompts you to actually check the label, like you said.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've unpacked the core concepts, some feedback loops, and some really vital vocabulary. But what does this actually mean for you, listener, when you're in a real conversation? How does it sound in action?
Well, let's imagine a quick chat, maybe between two friends, Sarah and Leo, talking about a heat wave they've been experiencing. Sarah might say, "Hey, Leo, did you see the news about that heat wave hitting Europe? It's just intense." And Leo could reply, "Yeah, it's really worrying, isn't it? It just feels like the climate crisis is getting worse every single year."
Mm-hmm.
Then Sarah might add, "I know, right? I've actually been trying to be more eco-friendly myself lately. I finally stopped buying those plastic water bottles all the time." And Leo says, "Oh, that's a great step. Yeah, I'm making an effort to reduce my carbon footprint, too. I actually just switched to taking the bus most days instead of driving." Sarah could finish with, "That's fantastic. Every little bit really does add up, doesn't it?"
Okay, yeah, that sounds very natural.
Right. And if we just quickly break that down, when Leo says the climate crisis is getting worse, he's using that term we discussed to show urgency, the systemic problem.
Yep.
When Sarah says, "I've been trying to be more eco-friendly," she connects it directly to a personal habit avoiding plastic, makes it concrete. And Leo's response, "reduce my carbon footprint," links his specific action taking the bus to that measurable concept of impact.
And I think what's important there, too, is the tone. It's friendly, right? It's collaborative. They're sharing what they're doing, not pointing fingers or blaming each other.
Exactly. That makes these difficult conversations much more approachable, much more productive, and using this kind of vocabulary correctly helps you discuss these environmental topics with, both intelligence and respect.
So how can you, our listener, make your own communications sound more natural, more impactful when these subjects come up?
Well, sometimes it's just about subtle shifts in phrasing. We can call this a sort of fluency builder.
Mm-hmm.
For example, instead of saying something maybe a bit generic like, "I want to help the environment," the more natural and specific way might be, "I'm trying to be more eco-friendly." It connects to those actions we talked about. Or instead of, "I don't want to pollute," you could use, "I'm trying to reduce my carbon footprint." It uses that specific term.
Got it.
And maybe instead of just "global warming is a big problem," which sounds a bit basic,
Yeah.
try the more urgent and widely understood phrase, "the climate crisis is getting worse."
Right. You can hear how those alternatives just flow a bit better, sound a bit more informed. And the goal here isn't, for everyone to become a climate scientist overnight. It's about being able to communicate clearly and confidently in just normal, everyday conversations.
Which actually brings up a really important question. How can you really make these phrases feel like your own? How do you integrate them naturally?
Okay, here's a very practical tip for you, listener. When you use one of these phrases, eco-friendly, carbon footprint, climate crisis, try, if you can, to link it to a quick, real example from your own life.
Exactly. So instead of just stating, "I care about the environment," which is fine, but a bit abstract, you could say something like, "I always bring my own reusable bags to the grocery store, and I started composting food scraps because I'm genuinely trying to be more eco-friendly."
Ah, okay. That little bit of extra detail.
Yeah, that little detail makes it more personal, more authentic. It helps people connect with what you're saying and why you're saying it. It makes the commitment feel more real.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've covered today. We went beyond just the basics of global warming, looked at some complex effects like permafrost thaw and those tricky feedback loops, and we really focused on three key terms: carbon footprint, climate crisis, and eco-friendly, getting into their nuances and, well, their power.
And hopefully understanding these specific terms can empower you to engage more deeply, more thoughtfully, and just more effectively in these really critical conversations about our shared future, our shared planet.
So here's your challenge for this week, if you're up for it. Try to consciously use just one of these concepts or phrases, maybe just in your own thinking or perhaps in a conversation you have. See how it feels. Try to make it your own.
And as you continue on this journey of understanding, maybe just ponder this. How might becoming more articulate about these huge global challenges actually shift your own perspective, not just on the world, but maybe on your own daily choices and how they connect to that bigger picture? Food for thought.